Hey, everybody, welcome back. I got Molly with us again for part 2 of the Quarantine Diaries. As we live in this season of quarantine and pandemic, at some point, in some fashion, we will slowly ease into the lifestyles that were where we got to go out of the house and do fun things and hang out with people, maybe even with some restrictions on it, but still to the ability of be more than a mile away from our house. So with that said, Molly, what is the first thing that you want to do when it is safe and appropriate for you to do it? What is that thing that you're just dying to celebrate the end of quarantine with?
That's so hard. I I feel like it'll probably be me going to a friend's house or like a family friend's house and hugging them because I can. I hope that that's still okay at some point, that that's ever going to be okay, but I guess I like physical touch, and so no one's doing that at all right now.
Yep.
And I think it will be a way to show my love for those people.
So if you had to go to one place though, so obviously being able to engage with physical touch and show be within 2 feet of someone, that's gonna be strange but fantastic one day. But on top of it, if you had to do one experience, one restaurant, whatever it might be, even Ellie and I've talked about, and it sounds so stupid, I just want to go to Barnes and Noble and walk through a bookstore, or go to a coffee shop and grab a coffee and just sit inside the coffee shop. It's the smallest thing, but I feel like whenever it's safe again, it's going to feel like what used to feel like going to the mountains for a weekend. That's what it's going to feel like. Just being able to go sit in tidal grounds and grab a cup of coffee. What's that type of experience that even you want to do that you can't do right now?
So something local?
It doesn't even have to be local, but just some sort of experience that you want to do.
Well, I was supposed to go to a few different countries this year, and they're all canceled, so I want to do that.
And unfortunately, those could be the things that take the longest to return, unfortunately.
But,
yeah.
I mean, sit next to someone on a plane and get to know a stranger. Or go to a restaurant that I really like, and I know the people who work there because I go there so much, and just chat with them as they fix my food and be in the restaurant.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like it's those strange things that we just took it so for granted. And now it's oh yeah, just being able to go and have that regular rhythm and regular lifestyle that was so second nature to all of us. So as we think through quarantine and the excitement of it ending, I do believe that in seasons of transition and seasons of change and seasons where our rhythms get disrupted, that God does some of his best work. And at times it takes us getting out of the rhythm to figure out kind of what God has been up to and how he's been moving. But I still feel like even in seasons like this, we can see how God has been moving. So what do you think in this season so far, a month in, that maybe you've learned about yourself that you didn't know a month ago?
I've learned that I can sit still for a long time and just be, and God will give me peace. And it's not it's okay to do that, and it's okay to say no to some activity, to do something like that, to be at home, to be independent from the world, but dependent on God. And that was hard to get to because I had one day where I felt bored, and I was trying to sit there, but I just could not think about anything positive. I could not pray, and so I walked around, and I still couldn't do that, and that was really difficult. But it took me that and it takes those times to get used to that idea. And it's really valuable to listen to God, because he has things to tell us, even if it does take us a long time, just sitting there and waiting because our minds are scattered and distracted. It doesn't mean that God doesn't have something for us that day.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I would always joke with people, it was a slight joke, but part reality, of back in high school and college, people would tell me, oh, like, we feel like, Jonathon, you hear from God all the time, or like you respond to God really quick. Like, we wish we could listen to God like you. And I would look at people and go, the only reason why I listen is because God's been telling me to do the same thing for 6 months, and I kept ignoring it. And then finally, because I slowed down enough, God brought out the 2x4 or whatever, the fire hose, and like made it where I couldn't not pay attention to him. And so you think I'm being really obedient, when in reality, I was just really slow. And so it's like those times of like being forced to be still, like that God would finally show up because I was just so busy running. And going and going and going, that finally, oh, hey, God's been saying something for 6 months, but I've been ignoring it. So obviously we learn about ourselves and things. What do you think has been maybe something you've learned about God or walking with Jesus in this season, that you think would be important for somebody watching this to know in this season?
I think that God, he is the God of peace, and he will give that to those who ask him. He can fill us with that, and he will show up, even if you feel like it's been a really long time because you've just been so busy. And he can still, it doesn't mean that he hasn't been there, and that you're not really, you're not alone. You're never alone, and God wants to be with you at all times, and he's just waiting for you to stop long enough to see him, listen to him.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's perfect. So let's pretend we fast forward 5 years to the year 2025. You are officially graduating from college. You are, now they don't have valedictorians in college, so we'll scratch that. But so you're graduating from college, you're hanging out with a group of people. What do you think 5 years from now is kind of going to be one of the major things you remember from this season of life, of quarantine, you name it? Like, what do you think 5 years from now, forecasting into the future, that your class of seniors is going to take with you maybe the rest of your life, through college, whatever it might be, that 5 years from now, if you're chatting with a group of people, maybe you'll be talking about it. It can be funny, it can be personal, it can be like impactful. Like, you could be laughing about the toilet paper shortage of 2020. Whatever you think might be one of the sticking things 5 years from now for your generation. Like, what do you think?
So I didn't do this, but I think that a lot of people might mention their Zoom prom, because a lot of people did that and they didn't like it. But I really want people to come out of this more grateful for everything. And so I think it'd be really cool if this group of seniors went through college super, like, more thoughtful and taking time to be thoughtful and not feel like they have to be doing things all the time, and to be thankful for little things like having classmates that you can meet with in person at a coffee shop for a discussion about your test, like studying for it, or being in a classroom with a teacher that can teach in front of you, and you can have or it's like being in a group of people and you can talk to an individual person. Like you can't do that on a Zoom room. You have to talk to everyone.
Yep.
So I want people to be like more thoughtful. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. I do think if in 5 years' time we can look back and say that we as a society got more thoughtful and more intentional, that will be a slight glimmer of hope and win out of this depressing, like, hard season we find ourselves in. So I think that would be a great win 5 years from now if that's one of the themes that emerges. Molly, thank you so much for time and for joining us. I feel like that's the perfect way to end it, unless you have something else you want to say.
I was just going to say that I said that because I thought that some people are already doing that now.
That's good. Yeah. I do think there's some. I mean, I do, speaking of digital proms, what's his, John Krasinski and his Some Good News or whatever he's doing on YouTube, stuff like that. I feel like certain aspects of society are definitely rallying around where can we find the good, and not hang on to the sad or the depressing or the angry or confusing, which is super good. Anything else you want to share, Molly, before we log off and say farewell for now?
No, thank you so much for having me, and thank you guys for watching this. Have a great day.
Thank you, Molly, and we will talk to you later. Bye, Molly.